Welcome to Daily Book Insight.
Just think about that for a second. How many of your deepest beliefs did you actually choose for yourself? And how many were just, well, installed in you by your family, your culture, your education? In my work, I see so many people who feel trapped by these unwritten rules. So today, we're going to dive into a really powerful framework that helps you see those limiting agreements and, more importantly, rewrite them to create a life of true, genuine freedom.
So here's our game plan. First, we're going to expose this invisible prison that Ruiz calls the dream. This is the big problem we all face. Then we'll go step by step through the 4 agreements that are basically our keys to getting free. And finally, we'll talk about how to use these tools to build a brand new reality for yourself, one that's actually based on truth and self-love.
Okay, so to find the way out, you first have to realize you're in a prison, right? The core idea here is that the reality you and I perceive isn't the reality. We are living inside what he calls a collective dream. It's like a massive, shared hallucination made up of all these rules, beliefs, and social norms that we were just born into, but never consciously agreed to.
This whole process starts the second we're born. Ruiz calls it domestication, and it's a perfect word, because just like we train a pet, society trains us. We learn pretty quick to perform for rewards, praise, attention, a pat on the back, and to avoid punishment and disapproval. And over time, this conditioning goes so deep, we stop being afraid of just being punished by others. We become terrified of not getting the reward, of not being seen as good enough. Our entire sense of self-worth gets tied to what everyone else thinks.
And what's the end result of all this training? We end up internalizing every single rule, every judgment, every expectation, and this creates our personal book of law. This thing is our internal rule book, and it dictates everything: what's right, what's wrong, what success is, how we're supposed to feel, who we're supposed to be, and we just accept it all as the absolute truth, even when these laws cause us so much pain.
Now, there are 2 key forces inside of us that enforce this law. First up, you've got the judge. This is that nonstop voice in your head that's constantly measuring you against the impossible standards in your book of law, and it always finds you guilty. Then you have the victim. That's the part of us that believes every single word the judge says. It carries all the shame, all the blame, and it's always whispering, "See, I'm not smart enough, I'm not attractive enough, I'm just not worthy." This little internal courtroom is where almost all of our suffering is created.
The ancient Toltecs actually had a word for this inner chaos. They called it the methode. It's like having a crowded marketplace in your mind where 1,000 different voices, your parents, society, your own fears, are all shouting at you at the same time. And all that noise creates this dense fog, making it pretty much impossible to hear your own true voice or see what's really real.
And here's where it all connects. This internal hell projects outward. Our collective fear, our judgment, our conflict, it all creates the dream of the planet. A world that can often feel like a total nightmare of suffering and injustice. But here's the good news. We don't have to live in this dream. We can wake up. And the 4 agreements, they're the tools that show us exactly how to do it.
So this is where we start to take our power back. The very first agreement is the most fundamental of all, because it deals with the main tool we use to create our reality, for better or for worse, our words.
The first agreement is be impeccable with your word. Now, this sounds pretty simple, but it is so profound. It has the power to change your entire life, starting from the inside out.
So what does impeccable actually mean? Well, it comes from Latin, and it literally means without sin. And a sin, in this way of thinking, is anything you do that goes against yourself. So to be impeccable with your word means to stop using your words to hurt yourself or to hurt others. Your words are a creative force. They're like magic. When you use them for truth and love, that's white magic. But when you use them to spread emotional poison, like gossip or criticism or all that negative self-talk, it becomes black magic, and it just creates suffering everywhere it goes.
Just think about this powerful example from the book. There's a mother who's had a really bad day, and she snaps at her daughter who's just singing joyfully, "Shut up, you have an ugly voice." In that one moment, an emotional spell is cast. The little girl believes her mother, and she makes an agreement with that statement. For years, maybe her whole life, she carries this wound that she can't sing, that her voice is ugly. That is the incredible, destructive power of just a few careless words. And let's be honest, we do this to ourselves all the time with our own inner critic.
Okay, so if words can be poison, and we live in a world full of people casting these little spells, how do we protect ourselves? Well, the second agreement is our shield. It's the key to building total immunity to the emotional garbage of other people.
And that shield is the second agreement. Don't take anything personally. Seriously, when you truly get this, nothing can hurt you anymore.
Here's the truth. Nothing others do is because of you. What they say, what they do, the opinions they have, it's all a direct projection of their own reality, their own book of law. Taking it personally is really the highest form of selfishness, this belief that everything in the world revolves around you. But when you stop taking things personally, you become immune. They can send their poison your way, but it just can't get in. And remember, this goes for compliments too. If you need their praise to feel good, you'll be crushed by their criticism. Real freedom is needing neither.
So if the first two agreements help us manage our own words and our reactions to others, this third one, it goes right to the heart of what causes so much conflict and suffering in our relationships: misunderstanding.
And this is the third agreement. Don't make assumptions. This one little practice is your ticket to clarity, and it's the fastest way to stop creating unnecessary drama in your life.
You see, we have this deep need to know things, to feel safe and in control. So when we don't know something, our mind just fills in the blanks by making stuff up. We project our own reality onto other people, assuming they see the world exactly the way we do. But the problem is, our assumptions are almost always wrong, and they lead to so much pain. The only way out of this trap is to find the courage to just ask questions and communicate clearly. That's the antidote right there.
Think about it in a relationship. You assume your partner knows you had a terrible day, and you want them to make dinner, but you don't say a word. You get home, dinner's not made, and you get hurt. You start thinking, if they really loved me, they would have known. Boom, you've just created a whole drama based on a total fantasy in your own head. Just having the courage to ask or to clearly say what you want would prevent all of that suffering. All right, so those first three agreements are mostly about shifting our mindset and how we communicate. This fourth one, though, this one is all about action. It's the one that pulls all the others together and makes them a real, living practice in our day-to-day lives.
The fourth agreement is this beautifully simple but really dynamic rule for living. Always do your best.
Now, this is really important. Your best is not about being a perfectionist. Not at all. It's a moving target. Your best when you're healthy and full of energy is going to be very different from your best when you're sick or exhausted. The trick is to do the action for the pure joy of doing it, not for some reward down the line. When you just commit to doing your best in any given moment, that inner judge, well, he's got nothing to use against you. You can end every day knowing you gave it what you had, and there's just no room left for self-judgment, guilt, or regret.
Okay, so we have our 4 tools. Be impeccable with your word, don't take things personally, don't make assumptions, and always do your best. But you know, just knowing about the tools isn't enough. How do we actually make these practices stick and win the war for our own minds?
That really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? It takes more than just getting it intellectually. It requires a deep commitment, a whole new way of showing up in the world.
This is where we have to become what Ruiz calls a spiritual warrior. Now, this isn't a war against other people. It's an internal war against the parasite living in our own minds, that whole system of the judge, the victim, and the book of law that's been feeding on our energy for our whole lives. A warrior uses awareness and discipline to challenge every old agreement, to take back control of their mind, and to start living with intention.
So what does this freedom actually feel like? What's this new dream we're trying to create? Just take a second. Really imagine it. What would it feel like to live your life without that constant, nagging fear of what other people think? To make choices from your heart, not because you're looking for their approval.
Now, imagine being able to love freely and openly without being terrified of rejection, offering your love not as a transaction, not because you need it back, but just for the pure joy of giving it. Imagine being completely free from the need for anyone's approval to feel whole. And finally, imagine looking in the mirror and feeling nothing but deep, profound love and total acceptance for the person looking back at you. Loving your body, loving your feelings, your whole being, not in spite of your flaws, but because you finally get it. You are perfect, right now, just as you are. This isn't some fantasy. This is the personal heaven you absolutely have the power to create.
You know, in the end, it all comes down to this one choice. The old dream, the one ruled by fear and judgment, it's comfortable because it's familiar. The new dream, the one based on love and truth, that takes courage and practice, but the power to choose has always, always been yours. So, what will you choose? If this deep dive resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more insights just like this, and share this explainer with your family and friends, anyone you know who wants to upgrade their life. Thank you so much for joining me.